everybody. Welcome back. Episode 36 of the Legends and Dragons podcast here from the Legends Lair in Hurst, Texas. Chance Grossen, Jimmy Clones, Miss Grace Brannon. Thank you for joining us. Did you know, Chance? I don't know if I told you. Grace, we were talking about the podcast at the Bell Test, and she's the one that suggested more ladies be on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So I think we have now probably evened it out, right? You think so? We've had Nikki, we have Alyssa, we've had
Grace and Ariane.
So
4 out of 36.
Shandy, that's 5.
5 out of 36.
Well, some of the episodes, it was just Chance and I. There was some.
Yeah, but they're not until. Yeah, no, we both have Y chromosomes. If I check, if memory serves.
I can't remember. I told Grace, I'm like, imagine hating me and knowing that I'm just rocking out to Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas.
I saw that.
And Grace said, maybe that's why they hate you.
Yeah.
You a big Christmas fan? You like Christmas?
Very much.
Yeah?
I even have a holiday.
I didn't even notice that. Look at that. Are you from Texas?
Yes, I am. Dallas, Fort Worth.
Oh, okay. So what's up?
Were you born in Harris Hospital like me?
No, I was born in Grand Prairie. I don't know what that hospital was, but I'm sure
Grand Prairie Hospital.
Some Grand Prairie hospital.
My babies are Texans. I am not. I'm like that sticker that said I wasn't born here, but got here as fast as I could. As fast as I could. Yeah, I like it. So what's your favorite Christmas movie? You have a favorite Christmas movie?
White Christmas, probably.
Ooh, that's ours too. Talon, love, dude. White Christmas, Bing Crosby.
Yes.
Do you know anything about Christmas? Anything. If they had like a Lord of the Rings Christmas, you would probably watch that.
And listen, yes.
Oh, what?
Like here's the thing, and it's not particularly related to Christmas, but there is a niche cinema area that missed me, and it is the vintage film thing. So like, It's a Wonderful Life, like Chris, like, you know what I mean? Anything that's been colorized, like that kind of genre of film, early film, it's like watching paint dry for me. I just cannot watch old film.
Really?
No,
You like musicals? You listen to any, or like The Wizard of Oz? Or Sound of Music?
Listen, you know I love music.
Exactly.
But even the musicals, I don't prefer like Wizard of Oz and Sound of Music to like Sweeney Todd, like, you know what I mean? Or Lemez, I really like the more modern musicals. I'm not even a fan of Oklahoma.
We need modern musicals, like
in the last 30 years.
Like Rent?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big, huge fan.
Rodgers Hammerstein.
Right, Rodgers Hammerstein, exactly. I don't know. So the thing is that the first kind of era of film that I really, and I don't even like 70s stuff. I mean, I really don't.
You don't like Grease?
No, I really don't. It was the John Hughes era.
Oh, okay.
It was the Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, like from that point forward, I have consumed everything shot with a camera, and I'm completely on board with all of it.
Okay.
I'm kind of in that. I like a lot of things before that. Really cannot stand a lot of that in between.
The John Hughes era, the 80s stuff?
Absolutely. The Brat Pack stuff, cannot stand. And then I start liking Nick's again.
Okay.
Really? So
that's funny.
You skip the generation.
So with our powers combined,
yes,
we're covering.
I think so.
Yeah, you guys got all the races going on.
I think it's because of the age that you are at a certain time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So in the 80s, it was coming of age for me. Breakfast Club. I was a teenager when all of this stuff, and so it's like you're a baby duckling. So whatever you see as your break, and so this is this interesting thing. I think whatever you consume when you're breaking free of your parents, there's like this psychological thing where it becomes basically better to you than it probably really is.
Like Howard the Duck.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Like Leah Thompson, like that whole, that
was for me.
So as I'm breaking away from it, I'm becoming Chance Burleson and not Patton Talana's kid.
Yeah.
All the music, all of the film, all of the art, all of that stuff is like in my bones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've looked back on it and I've gone back and watched this stuff. And I'm like, this really isn't that good. But at the time, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen.
Well, it's like Steven Seagal movies.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That is like really good.
I listen, I'm not proud of it. I thought they were good when I saw them. But I didn't know anything about it.
They still are.
No,
You
they're
know, take away the guy. Like what you know of the guy.
You can't. That's not in the name. It's Steven Seagal movie. You can't take away the guy.
No, take away what you know of the guy outside the film. Like all the craziness.
Have you ever heard Tom Segura talk about Steven Seagal? Yeah, he's like, he's got that thing about him when you hear him interviewed that is the most irritating thing about every person that you know. And it's like, no matter what you're talking about, he is an expert on everything. No matter what you're talking about, he's like, yeah, I flew one of those helicopters over the war like 400 years ago. And it's an HUB 107.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is just all the time. Anyways, sorry.
Are you done with Christmas shopping? Or are you not?
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah.
I am done. Is everything wrapped? No.
Okay.
I'm like probably 30-40% of the way done.
Okay. So I don't know Grace. So this is like an interview for me to know Grace. And so for our local martial arts family, I guess martial arts family know Grace anyway, because I've always had a respect for you because of all the mentoring that you have done for all the legends of black belts. So we'll get into that here in a second. But Christmas shopping, I don't Christmas shop. I don't know if it's going to shock you. So I'm just as surprised as the kids are. Like when they open their gift, I'm like, hey, what'd you get?
With
Like,
your
with
name
my name,
on
I'm like, hey, well, that's really nice. Good job, bro. I was surprised you got that. Do you do all the shopping? You have kids?
I do. I have 3 kids. I have twin 5-year-olds and then a 3-year-old. All boys.
Okay.
All wonderful.
Does your husband do any Christmas shopping or is it all you?
He does a little bit, but I think I would say I do 85% of it.
Wow, he's really good. He does 15% of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's like half the Christmas shopping in husband's world.
yeah, I know. Well, that's standard, right? That's good. Good job. And good job, Mr. Brannon. Well done.
Yeah.
So this isn't your first podcast.
It is not.
What other podcasts are you on?
It's Moms Can Too, which is the episode I did is about how like coming off of motherhood. And so like becoming a mom kind of changed your identity with a lot of things and then getting and finding your community.
Okay.
After that. And so trying to establish connections with other people, especially for parents of children with special needs. So one of my sons is visually impaired,
Okay.
totally blind in one eye, legally blind in the other, had a brain injury at birth. And so lots of different therapies, specialist appointments over the years, early childhood intervention, arts, 504s, IEPs, all that kind of stuff. And so talking about how the community of motherhood and running especially has helped pull me out of like postpartum depression.
Yeah, I saw that. So you've done many. Yeah, how many marathons have you done? Are you double
I've
digits?
done, no, definitely not. I've done 2 standalone marathons, an ultra marathon and an Ironman triathlon, which ends with a marathon.
Yeah.
So technically I've done 4, but 2 were embedded in larger races.
Do you have the Iron Man tattoo?
I do not. Absolutely not. That is a brand. I'm not tattooing a brand.
You're not tattooing a brand?
No.
Yeah, you're not she's like me. She's not a joiner.
No.
No.
Yeah. You're not a big fan of tattoos.
No, not at all.
Yeah, they're ugly. But the thing is, so I never really realized this until you just said this, which is shameful of me, really. Like it bothers me. I'm not saying that this isn't the first time I've ever considered it, but I don't think I've really deeply considered it. Because I know what my process was with because kids are a dividing line in your life. Like you're this person, and then kids, and then it's almost like a hermetically sealed thing that you come out of. And I know what it was like for me, but this won't be a newsflash. As a man, how it was for my spouse wasn't on the forefront of my mind, but that you've got this entire identity and this life and these connections and these people, and then kids really sever that. If you're doing the work, like if you're doing it, and otherwise you have nannies and stuff, you don't know, you know what I mean? But like if you're doing the work as a parent, and then finding what and who you are, which has to change. So tell us about that.
Oh gosh. I don't even know where to start. And a lot of it was, you know, with the twins, like going from 0 kids to 2 kids right off the bat.
Yeah.
You know, I think having a kid would be a shocker. And then yeah, I can imagine. But having 2 right off the bat and then trying to manage the schedules, and like you don't want one eating 1 hour and one eating the next hour. You want them to eat at the same time, so then you can sleep. And
Not to mention them sleeping.
then sleep.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then of course the one having special needs, like he had his first surgery at like 9 weeks old, and so like the hospital stays and all those kinds of things really kind of thrust me into a world. And my background is health communication, and so like I know a lot of the patient provider world. I know a lot of that kind of aspect, but it's very, very different to be on the family side and being just kind of in the waiting phase. And there's constantly waiting in the hospitals, waiting for news, waiting for information, trying to find that information. And then just, I was realizing I was spending so much time inside and like in the hospital or in the house or whatever. And it felt kind of very cagey. And so the twins were born in 2019. And then, of course, bless you, COVID hit in 2020. And so then, of course, we're back inside and kind of around. And so that really kind of trying to recreate who I am as a person. I was trying to make sure that I was including the kids because I want to be a good model for them. But I also wanted to try to go back and find the things that I loved. And so obviously martial arts has been one of those things. I've been in it for 20 years now this year, but I picked up running in grad school, just because I needed it to pass the PFT for karate if I wanted to keep testing. And so it was just really interesting though to see like I have my white belt all the way up through my 5th degree black belt was pre-kids.
Right.
My first half marathon was pre-kids. My first full marathon was pre-kids. And then that's kind of, and then the break happened where it's like you have kids, you have all this other constraints and time, and you want to spend your energy with all these other things and other commitments, but then you also want to do things for you. And no, because the goal is, right, you want the kids out at some point. Right. If they can go out and join the world and do all these wonderful, great things. And then what are you going to be? Who are you going to be after they leave?
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure that I am still engaging in things that I love and I enjoy and that they can see that I love and want to do. So that way it doesn't fall to me at the teacher trap where in martial arts, where like you earn your black belt, and then you start teaching and then all you do is
that's
teach.
it.
You don't train anymore. Yeah. Right. And so I didn't want that to be in the parenting equivalent.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Yeah. So you basically you intentionally kept your purpose. You found your purpose. You kept your purpose because you didn't want to fall off.
And I had to re-find it. Like it didn't just come to me.
It didn't come back in the same form it was before.
Not at all.
Sure.
So how did you find that?
Partly through community. And so trying to make sure that I'm connected, staying here.
Listen, that's community.
I did grad school here. I did my master's here. I did my PhD at College Station at Texas A&M. And so I was kind of commuting. So at the time I had a satellite school, and I still have the satellite school in Burleson, Rendon area. And so I asked Chance, and I was like, well, is that okay as I basically teach every other week's type thing, but then have double length class? And he's just like, if they stick with you, like that's fine. Okay, do what you want type thing. Just kind of make it through. And so I was able to pull several of my students through that 4 years where I was down there and I was driving up every other weekend to teach double length classes for 4 years.
Yeah.
So that way I could continue having my satellite school, and all my students were super flexible, wonderful. And several of them are still active. Like Sam McCain earned her black belt during that time frame.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Munger, Jeremy Brannon, like I weighed out for it. I had quite a few in that time frame where I was mentoring long distance, but then also making that commute. And it was like
is awesome.
a 3-hour commute one way. Like it's not.
I know. We just went down there for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
It's not.
So you have your doctorate,
I do.
and then you have your I say master's. So you Master Grace Brannon.
Yeah.
All right. So 5th degree. or sixth degree. Okay. The satellite school you're talking about, was that satellite legend
Yes,
for legends?
yes.
Okay.
Satellite for legends.
Okay. So, man, you marathon runner?
I know.
Goodness sakes, man. We have some pretty amazing people. Actually,
We do.
on this podcast. I mean,
So she won't talk about this because she won't.
okay.
So I
But you will. That's it wasn't gonna show.
like you can learn. Okay, there's a phrase from another organization that I'm a part of that says we tend to live what we believe, right? And what that means, if there's an inference in there, is that what we believe is not what we talk about. What we talk about is what we talk about. But what we do is actually what we believe. So our actions tell a story about our beliefs that our words can't, because there's a lot of image management in words and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm going to talk so that I can kind of impress upon you this version of me that I want you to think that I am. But if you watch me real closely and you see where I spend my time and how I spend my time and stuff like that, that will tell you who I really am. I won't tell you who I really am. And most people, there is a slight rift. I think that if you have intense honor, there's a small rift, right? There's a small rift, but I think there's always a rift, you know? But there are moments that are very poignant. And I don't know if you know how powerful this moment was. And I still have the pictures on my phone. So we do a thing here called the Satori Instructor Certification, right? Where our instructors have to go through what I can only describe as a black belt test for teaching.
Yes, sir.
Like, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And I'd say 30% of the people that take it fail it the first time. It's really hard to do, right?
Is it mental and physical?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's really, really hard, right? And every successful martial arts organization has a version of staff training and instructor training. If you're going to be a successful school and you're going to grow and you're going to do good work, there has to be quality control of what's done.
Right.
She probably already knows what we're going to talk about. But you were between 7 and 9 months pregnant
I was
and doing this test.
with the twins. So I was like 7 months pregnant
With
with
twins.
twins, looking like I was 9 or 10 months pregnant.
Yeah. What? And then at the end of the 8-hour Satori test, there is a physical test,
Yeah.
which she did.
I bet you were probably still
It was
top tier.
It was well, no, I mean, were her push-ups like not pregnant push-ups? No, but
I could only go down so far.
Right.
My belly did first.
But the thing is that I'll never forget, like that burned
Right.
in my mind. I'm like, that tells me what I need
That
to
made
do.
an impression on you.
You can talk to me all day about who you are and all that kind of stuff, but
Right.
do you know what I'm talking about? Like, our actions tell that story, and that's who she is.
Yeah, no,
You know?
that's pretty phenomenal. So let's start at the beginning. So you were born.
That was
That's definitely the
That's a
beginning.
great start.
Yeah, that's a great start.
Yeah.
What age did you begin martial arts?
I was 12.
So you were 12.
Yes.
What got you into martial arts?
So I started dance and I played piano, but I did like ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, hip hop, that kind of thing when I turned 5 or 6. And then I was still doing that until I was in college. But when I was 12, my brother Evan, my parents were like, we need to put him in karate because he's doing dance. And then we think karate would be another good thing for him as well. And I'm homeschooled. And so we had a lot of time for extracurriculars and stuff. We did a lot of trade outs with like cleaning the dance studio for reduced tuition lessons, that kind of thing. And so I and my sister Anna, we were like, we want to do karate too. Why does he get to do it and we don't get to do it? We want to do this too. And so my dad was like, I don't know that you're going to like it, but okay, like let's take y'all and see. And she and I ended up earning our black belt together at the same test, which was super cool. So we actually kind of all did it as a family. So my dad, me, Anna, Jamie, Evan. Then I have a younger sister, Sarah, but she was 3 at the time. So like that was, she's too little to start. But we started in a program called Christian Soldiers. And so I earned my black belt in 2007. And then I started training with Chance actually before that. And so I think I met him for the first time when I was like a blue belt, green belt at a tournament. And in one of those South Fort Worth seminary 35 ones, back when I was outbound of karate. And so I was like, oh, I really like they do more katas than Christian Soldiers did. And so they had 6 katas and Christian Soldiers only had 3, and I really liked them. And so I had taught myself a couple of them out of the Keith Yates Taekwondo Book of Forms. So I just love kata. And I know that's not a popular opinion among a lot of martial artists. But yes, I love it. And so I was like, I want to do more of this. And then I was training with Annie out at the dojo, at the Azel dojo, and he was having his instructor training, like before, after sometimes. And then they would end with like 100 of these like snake push-ups.
And do squats and push-ups.
And I was like, I want to be able to do that. And so I asked if I could start doing it. And so I started training with them around blue belt, just kind of low key.
One of the merrier.
Would you come here and train?
No, this didn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, so the kind of the evolution of Legends. The very first karate school that I owned, I was 17, and I bought from Dad. And it was the Colleyville School, and it was called what do we call it? I think it was J-Pat Burleson Karate. Yeah, that's what it was called. J-Pat Burleson Karate. And then I had a student who had a business degree, and I was 17. And she's like, we can make this really professional. And I'm like, I just want to teach. I don't want to know any of this. And so we formed a business called Colleyville Family Karate. And we did. We got pretty successful, and I learned some stuff. And that lasted a couple of years. It was my first and last business partner. And she was wonderful. Yeah. But I am not cut out to share the mic. Like, I share the mic with all of you, but as far as we're half and half making decisions, that's just not, I'm not that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I sold my half to her and opened a thing. Dad had discovered this way of teaching karate, which was amazing. And I should tell you, I have yet to make as much money running this school as I did back then. Yeah, I made over $100,000 a year teaching satellite schools. I had 4 of them, and I called it Outbound Karate. I had a little tattoo, and of course I had the tattoo. And we charged $38 a month. And it was just this weird multi-level marketing thing where nobody was paying very much, but we had so many of them that we could duplicate them all over the place. I worked 20 hours a week and made $100,000 a year. Yeah. And I have yet to work that little here and make that much here. But Outbound Karate, which is when she met me, was satellite schools.
But so you met him, so you said, of course, South Fort Worth. So you started at an Outbound school, right?
No. It was Christian Soldiers and listen. So I'm from the area. I was living in Arlington for several years. We moved to Crowley when I was 9. And so we started at a church where the Christian Soldiers was, because it's like.
And then she trained out in Azel with Annie, but I went out in Azel and did my instructor training for all of my satellite schools. Right. And so we would cross. Mm-hmm. It's no different than you and me. Right. Honestly, it's not. It's the same thing. I have a lot of friends in martial arts, and I have a lot of family in martial arts. Right. And we've all just kind of like concentric circles. That's always been the case. And you've watched that happen over here. Right. Yeah. Grace, met me when she was a teenager, and she saw what we were about and what we were doing. And Dad was and I've told you this, I'm a little bit of a black sheep in the organization because most of the people in Dad's organization don't understand that he was constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah.
Because they weren't there from the beginning. I was.
Right.
I grew up with him going, I don't like this anymore. We're gonna do it this way. I don't like this anymore. We're gonna do it this way. And I would watch, and whatever black belts happened to be there at the time would always go, we don't like that change. We're gonna keep doing it this way. And Dad, being who Dad was, goes, all right, fine, go do it. But we're gonna do this.
Right.
And so that is the constant.
Yeah.
He was always improving and changing the system.
Right.
You know? And so what we have is we have a lot of people who owe their training to Dad who are just doing what they're calling tradition is just the iteration of what he was doing when they joined.
Right.
And they think that, like, that's the way, the Mandalorian way. Like, they think that's the way. No, that's just the way he was doing it when you showed up.
Right.
You know?
And one of the things that really drew me was in Christian Soldiers, it was basically like a family karate, which was really, really good, especially when you are trying to have more family time. And but when I got to a certain level, I was like, well, I want to be challenged a little bit more. And it's hard for me to be challenged with a bunch of 5-year-olds in the same class. And so I really liked how Outbound, and then as it was morphing into Legends, had that distinct junior program, teen adult program, and then had an advanced black belt degree curriculum program. Where basically it was laid out somewhat where like, this is what you need to do to earn your next degrees. And at the time, Christian Soldiers didn't have that.
And you just loved it. And especially with the stuff that you've already shared, you know, homeschool and school, you like that structure as well. Like
I love
it's like you need that structure. So when you saw it, I'm sure you were just eating it up.
And so I earned my first degree black belt. And then after that, I was like kind of in this floating in this ether of like,
What now?
well, what do I do now? Yeah, I'm teaching. I'm starting to mentor for the first time. But how do I keep myself from falling in that teacher trap? And because I knew I was there. And so I was like, well, can I really start like wearing the Legends stuff and being a Legends person? And I was like, yeah, of course.
So you graduate high school.
One of the best additions to Legends ever has been Grace.
Oh, I'm sure. Listen,
Yeah, unbelievable.
Just showing up to black belt test and just watching Grace and her what she's done. I can see that from the sidelines. But so you graduate high school now. So you go to college. What college you go to?
University of Texas at Arlington.
Okay. What did you graduate? What did you study?
Communication studies.
Okay. So
I was actually originally a business major because I wanted to open my own series of satellite schools and stuff too. But I also wanted
satellite
to be,
martial arts schools.
Yes.
Okay.
But I also wanted to be a pilot in the military.
Ooh,
And then I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 18, and they do not allow you to be a pilot. Like you can't get your pilot's license. Now you actually can as of about 4 years ago. It's too late. I'm already on my I've done too much. Done my time. So I ended up changing my majors. I was also falling asleep in lessons. And I was like, well, clearly business is not for me. I'll keep it as a minor. But comm is really interesting. It's engaging. I get to have a community and talk to people and learn about people. And it's really interesting. Can be applied in so many ways. And so I did my bachelor's there. I worked part-time at Radio Shack, ended up working full-time at Radio Shack. I was an assistant manager for a few years. Did some loss prevention type stuff, working around at different, not just stores in my district, but in other districts too.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, I guess I can get my master's when I had someone who was a really good academic mentor for me say, you would be a really good researcher. Here, go interview for this thing and then let's see what happens. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is amazing. And then she was like, well, are you going to go for your PhD? And I was like, oh no, I'm not smart enough for that. I'm a first gen student.
Right. Okay.
So my parents didn't go to a 4-year university or anything. My mom got her associates after I got my PhD.
Okay.
And so she did go back to school. My dad does have his.
So what made you think that you weren't smart enough for a PhD though?
I just didn't know people who really went to
You didn't come from the culture.
I didn't have the
Right,
culture.
right.
Yeah.
My kids now have spent far more hours on college campuses than I did. Like, and they're 3 and 5 than I did by the time I was probably 19.
So where did you get your graduate degree in?
Communication was my master's, also at UTA, and then my PhD is health and also organizational communication.
Okay.
So and you could kind of pick 2 subspecialties, and there was like rhetoric, media, health and organizational. And so we
It didn't sound like a lot of fun today.
and rhetoric, I was like, no.
So what do you do now?
So I'm a professor.
Professor. So, okay, what classes do you teach?
I teach comm for educators, comm theory, health comm, family and health comm at the graduate level, human relationships, which is basically interpersonal communication.
Good.
And then I'm missing something because I have, organizational communication, managerial communication. So not all at the same time.
Right. Right. My favorite when I went to school and I got my, and I am not going to minimize it. I am not going to say I just got my associates. I'm going to say I got my associates.
As you should. Yeah.
And the reason that is so impressive is because there's absolutely no reason for me to go to college ever. Like it was not like I was already established with kids.
Yeah.
And I had a business. Like I didn't need it for work.
Right.
But I was like, what is that experience like? I want to have that. I want to know, because I'm not a dumb person. Like I want to know, what is this like to experience learning like this?
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. But human relations was my favorite class I ever took in college.
Yeah.
It's where I learned the external and internal locus of control. And you know what that is?
Yeah, and we've talked about it
Yes,
on the podcast before
yes.
too. So.
And that the happiest people are on the internal side of the middle. They don't have a God complex, but they do feel like they have a bit more control over what happens in their life. And I love that concept. Yeah.
Dude, I'm a legend in my own mind. If you tell my wife, I am the greatest of all time in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I'm the greatest ever at katas until I catch myself in the mirror and I look like Shrek. Yeah, that's what I look like. Shrek trying to balance himself doing the katas. So anyway, it's amazing. So, all right, so you have your doctorate. So, okay, I know that we're not supposed to ask how ladies are. That's the culture. See, I was going to guess late 20s.
Yeah.
I was going to guess late 20s. I'm like, man, you've done a lot. Okay, so
We're only guessing late 20s is because you have a PhD. And the numbers don't add up to 23.
Well, and I think
that's not the 20s.
I think
early
we could have done the
20s.
math too, because I started when I was 12 and I've been in it for 20 years. So.
We didn't notice
Okay, okay, good job. That's why you're a doctor.
Yeah.
I just have my master's and you have your associates.
Just my sister.
I'm just saying, you know what, but that's something, I'm glad you said that though about minimizing it because, Journey, my daughter's homeschooled. And so she's going to graduate in April. And I've been hearing a lot of kids saying, well, I'm just going to go to CCC. And I'm like,
I started at TCC.
I was like,
credit there.
So Journey, so she got accepted to Baylor, Mary, Hardin, whatever it is, right? And so when she got that acceptance, she was like, you know what, Dad, and Mom, I think I just want to go to TCC and take classes. I was like, that's pretty smart. She was like, well, I thought you would be disappointed. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, that's a very smart thing. So kids, if you're listening to this, do not minimize a community college at all. Go to community college, get your basics. I think that's one of the smartest things that you could possibly do.
Lower debt. To have your community support of your family and friends nearby.
And one of the in my opinion, smart. See, because like for me, I had a very rich uncle who got my bachelor's and master's. The Uncle Sam. Yeah, I joined the Uncle Sam. So very rich. I always call him very rich.
He doesn't manage his money.
He doesn't manage his money, but it doesn't matter. He just Uncle Sam.
That's how my husband got his bachelor's.
Okay, through the military as well. Good, awesome. Hey, thanks. Tell your husband thanks for his service. Yeah. Where was he?
Army.
Army. 12 years Army.
So I part of the story that I leave out when I say I got my associates was that after I got my associates and graduated, whatever. Like they wanted to get me to school, and I'm like, I'm gonna get my bachelor's. And you can't do that at JC, which is what it was when I went. So I went to UTA for half of one semester.
Half of one
semester.
Okay.
And my experience at UTA was very different than my experience at TCJC. Yeah. At TCJC, my classes were taught by PhD level professors who very much cared about your college education and wanted to help you in any way possible. The classes were a third of the money per credit hour. And when I got to UTA, I took my first after associate's level class. And there's a guy, and I have no idea what his name is, so I can talk about him freely.
All right.
When I explain him, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. It was a comp, 400 class. He was a very arrogant grad student with a very Seagal ponytail. And I made it for a month in that class. And I'm like, I am not going to do this for 3 times the money.
Yeah.
And he was like, by the way, I'm older than this guy. And he's like, yeah, I can remember when I was where y'all were at. And you know what I mean? It's just how you're all just full of hopes and dreams. And he was horrible.
Yeah.
It was like he was auditioning for a bad teacher role. And I was a professional martial arts teacher. You know what I mean? So I'm like, no. Associates it is.
So I had a year left. No, I had probably about maybe a year left of eligibility for the JAB. So I had already earned my master's in my undergrad. So I was like, I can't let this free money go away. So I took a semester at TCU. I was in my early 30s. I think Talon had just been born. He was born in 2011. So, yeah, probably about 2011, 2012. I was like, I want to go and already had the job, air traffic, doing that. And then, so I had to take a full load of classes to get the max eligibility. So I was like, okay, so I take these history classes. I take history of Iran, European history, history advanced. That was pretty good. History advanced. I was pretty fascinated by history advanced. But anyway, so of course the history of Iran teacher, the first time she comes in, just right out the gate, hey, I hate the military, not knowing that it's our military. So once we did the introductions, then we got D- that class.
Yeah.
Probably. Because I was very vocal. She wanted to move on and said, Jimmy, do you have anything else to add? I was like, oh, yes, I do. I have a lot to add here because these 18-year-old students just are saying, regurgitating whatever you want for an A. But anyways, but the dance class, so I had the dance class with it that, so I'm sitting in the stadium seating and I'm older than the teacher for this history of dance. And she goes, hey, Jimmy, I want you, or not Jimmy, she goes, class, I want you to pick the 4 around you. And this is your first group. And I was like, okay, cool. So get the first group. And I'm like, okay, guys, listen, they're young. They're like 18, 19 years old. Like, listen, I have no time for you for this right now. I will do the entire assignment. Just send me just email me. They're like, yeah, absolutely. So I did the entire PowerPoint. I did the entire presentation because I couldn't just wait. I had a small child at home, a toddler. And so apparently word got out in the stadium city, like, hey, that old man is doing all the work. And so the next subject or the next project, the TCU showgirls gravitate towards me. They're like, oh, the old man is doing the projects. Hey, and they're asking all the stuff like, hey, Jimmy, do you want to come by the dorms for the project? I'm like, no. They were like, can we have your number? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, can we have your email? And I'm like, at first I said no. I was like, oh yeah. James.Klaus@tcu.edu. Absolutely. And they were like, well, where do you want to meet? I'm like, let's meet the library. Let's do the project at the library. So, of course, I go home and I tell Miriam the story. I'm like, hey, babe, I just want you to know that these girls, they all gravitate.
She's like, they can have you.
That's exactly what I was like. Yeah, I was like, hey, they want me. She's like, they can have you. And I was like, oh my God, like, they were not. Anyway, so.
Yeah, that didn't go.
They didn't go, oh man, talking about your all-time backfires. Yeah, absolutely. So what made you become a mentor, like, for martial arts? Like, what kind of triggered that? Tell me about that, because you got your first degree under Chance.
Christian
She already met her
Saunders.
first. Okay, so Christian Saunders.
And then I started training with Chance more formally at that point and doing we didn't really have black belt classes quite the way we have them now.
Okay.
So it was just going to classes
Okay.
and then training mostly on your own. I learned so many of my katas from books and videos. And at that, now we can do like demonstrations and things, like weapons demos and BJJ demos.
Do you do weapons?
Fairly.
Okay.
Yes. I played with a couple of things, but nothing. I wouldn't say I'm really good at anything. Probably the best weapon I have is Kali sticks. And even then, I'm like absolutely terrible. Like probably some of the brown belts here are better than I am with it. Just practice is a big part of it. But what was the question?
So you did. So when did the mentoring? Because I'm sure you added that was in place before she.
It was, and we were supposed to on the paper. We were supposed to mentor someone to first degree black belt for every degree that every time we tested for an advanced degree. It was on the thing. We didn't always follow that because, like for example, the gap between first and second degree is only a year, like minimum, and you can't really pick up a mentee and then mentor them appropriately in a year's time. And so we didn't really follow that. We just kind of did the spirit of that. And so I had my first two mentees when I was going for third because I picked them up after my first degree black belt, but the timing just wasn't right. And so they ended up testing for black belt between my second and third. And so that counted for my second degree and then my third degree candidacy. And then I learned pretty quickly what were some things that I was doing that did not work, that was not helpful. Yeah. But it kind of started with the students who I had at my Burleson Satellite School. They were kind of my built-in mentees.
Yeah.
And so like
their default mentees.
They were default mentees.
Right.
And I was very clear with like, y'all can always train and pick someone up here too at the Herstage. It doesn't have to be me, but by the time you've had all that rapport and everything built up that training time together, they know how I operate and how I work. It's easy to work with me logistically. Then that kind of stacked up my first probably 8 mentees. And then once I came back here after getting my real big time job. No, I won't say real job. That was not what I intended. But like my what pays the bills and health insurance.
Sure. Yeah.
Job. Then that was when I started spending more time up here at the dojo.
Okay.
When people started asking me to mentor them outside of my kind of
your nucleus.
So let's say I'm asking you to be my mentor. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Like, what does the mentor program look like? You're getting me to that black belt.
It kind of depends on the individual. One of my strengths is that I'm a good runner. And so I spend a lot of time helping prep people for the Marine Corps PFT. And so a lot of my mentees have to report every time they run. We kind of develop a training plan for how often they're running, the cardio they're doing, and they're supposed to report all that. And they help give them different kind of workouts or advice on like running shoes or the cadence that they need to hit, that kind of thing. And so because I know that the karate, they're getting that in class. So if they're in class and they're going to class, they're going to mentoring, that's required. You should be doing that anyway. Right. And I kind of check in on that, but that's separate. My job as a mentor is to help them expand beyond that, beyond what they're getting in class. We have different ways of teaching different things too. And so I'm not going to say that I'm the best person to teach Kali or the best person to teach BJJ. So Mr. Walters does a really good job. And so if they're learning something from him, who am I to say, oh no, actually you need to come around this? No, absolutely not. Then I can really critique the writing form. I can critique kata very well. And so we used to, and this kind of stems to, we used to have to clear katas before a black belt test. And so it was like a super high intensity, and no one clears katas on the first time. And so you would have to work with your mentor to really nail down your 6 katas before you could even show up to do your black belt test. And so that was a big part of that.
Okay.
So a lot of
so pushing them physically, right? Is there any book work like as a mentor?
Not for first. And again, this is something that we've been talking about for years and years. I really have to get on the ball and get that. It's more than you've looked at it too and proofed it.
Yeah.
And it's in the bucket of 400,000 things that I need to finish.
Because you showed the book, the book list, right? Like a required sort of book.
It's like recommended.
Recommended.
We have a certain number that we are going to be requiring for the mind, body, spirit component for advanced degree testing. Okay. And then we do have a list of recommended readings that would fulfill those requirements.
But at the fundamental level, mentoring is this, which, by the way, it's never happened. But if Grace mentors Jimmy
Yeah.
and Jimmy fails his black belt test,
Yeah.
she loses her black belt.
Like
Yeah,
like a stripe or just the black belt?
done. So, again, it's never happened, nor will it ever happen, because she won't let you test.
Right. Okay. And has there been times where you have not let someone test?
We don't let people test all the time.
For the different reasons. Could be grades, could be attitude at home, could be you don't know your stuff.
But we won't mention her name, but you remember the teenage girl that kept talking to you about, like, I'm about to test, I'm about to test.
Yes, she asked me to be her court. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
But she's like, I'm testing at this time. And I remember telling you at the time, no, she isn't.
Right.
No, she's not.
Yeah.
Because we're a month or two out and she can't pass the run.
Right. Yeah.
And this is, I think, something that I really got comfortable with being a part of the COVARs. Like, I don't help somebody when I pass them out of an emotional connection to them.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a disservice to them.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like selling somebody a gun with blanks in it.
Yeah.
You know, just because I want them to get the loud bang. You know what I mean? So that's the way the mentoring thing works. And you're right. We all bring something different to the table. I have mentored my last people.
Yeah.
I will never mentor somebody again.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad for that, because, and you're going to run into this. I don't know if you have yet, but you will run into this at some point, where people will want you to mentor them because they believe they're going to get an experience that they may not get. Like, they'll probably get served better by a younger, hungrier, lower ranked black belt than they will you. And again, the status of the name on the belt.
Yeah.
You would probably get mentored a lot better by a Puckett or a Rogers, or, you know what I mean? Like, somebody's like, yeah, let's make some good black belts, you know? When I'm
done, man. Because I would get, on my black belt, I would get Grace's name, right? Is that what you guys do?
you'll have Brannon on your belt,
Yeah.
and she'll have Klaus on hers.
Oh, okay.
It's called a bonding stripe.
Okay. And so do you have like multiple names on the belt?
Oh, yeah.
Mine I've filled up my tip of the belt over here, and it's starting to wrap around.
I'm so, dude, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
So she has Burleson
Yeah.
in a red circle,
Okay.
bonding her to me.
Right.
Is it Brandon or T. Clay?
I think Brannon, because you just happened to get a new belt, but I guess technically it should be Take Clay.
Yeah, right. How impressed are you that I say that? A little bit. Everybody says tackle it.
What is it?
Take Clay.
Take Clay.
Take Clay.
Then I didn't even say it right.
But you said a lot better than what I said.
Yeah.
She just said it to me.
The Americanized version is Taclet, but it's in French. It's Take Clay.
Okay.
So that bonding stripe, and that just stays forever. And but it always has stayed forever,
Sure.
and now it isn't.
What do you mean?
Well, we weren't prepared for this, because your mentor stays your mentor, right? So, like, when she tested for 6,
Yeah.
like, we spent time, like, she drove up and, like, so I was still her mentor getting her ready. So your mentor stays your mentor to help prep you for those next strike tests, right? What if your mentor isn't around anymore? So we had a guy who was mentoring people, and he's done. I mean, he's moved on. He's in college. There's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong. He does not have time to dedicate to anything martial arts related.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair to the guys that he's mentored.
Yeah.
But it's also not fair for that name to stay if another black belt is going to do the work.
Yeah.
And so for the first time over the last few years, we've had people switch names.
Wow. Yeah.
Which we have to allow for that to be practical.
Yeah.
So a question I've thought about asking this to you. When are you up for 7th?
October 2028.
Okay.
It's a year before I retire from my job.
So Alyssa and I are actually up to test at the same time.
6th and 7th.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So 2020, I don't even know, what's that, about 4 years from now?
6.
Yeah, 6.
Is that right? Four. Because it's 6 between.
I'm glad you messed up that math.
I did.
You gave us a,
Yeah, I know.
So over the next 3 to 4 years,
Yeah.
we will have Ty will test for 6th.
Yeah.
Alyssa and her will test for 6th and 7th.
Yeah.
And so we will flesh out those. And then I've decided that I'm going on the timeline of the Kovars,
Really?
not our timeline.
Okay. Really? When'd you make this decision? 'Cause-
I made it after my last test.
okay.
So here's the thing.
Because I've, go ahead.
Dad did not leave. It's no fault of his. Dad was not interested at all in managing people at all.
Yeah.
And so when people are like, I want to do this and I want to do this, and he's like, you can go do whatever you want to do. Like, that's just who my dad was.
Yeah.
Right. So when he passed, especially the last 10 years of his life, he wasn't as sharp as a razor last 10 years. And so when he passed, the buzzards started circling for the control of the JPAT, Burleson, whatever. Right. Which I don't know what they thought they were in control of. It wasn't a cohesive organization anyway. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And if Dad was kind of like a looking down, watching it,
Yeah.
and they're like, I can have it.
You think he's laughing?
Dad would have said, "Young, all have it,"
Yeah.
which is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Which meant that there was no clear chain of command
Yeah.
for me to rank under.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, I could have picked any one of, 411 10th degree black belts that are in Texas, that are 6 feet away from all of us.
Yeah.
And then I thought he put me in Hanshi's back pocket for a reason.
Yeah.
So I picked him.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Hanshi's black belt striping is a year longer per stripe than ours.
Okay.
So our 5th and 6th degree black belts in his organization are 3rd and 4th degree black belts.
Okay.
It's taken much longer
Yeah.
to get stripes. And so one of the things that I'm really adamant about is that I want to do more and wait longer than I'm going to make any of my people do,
Okay.
rather than do less.
Because that'll be your what? That'll be your nice.
Yes. And in our system now,
Yeah.
9th is the highest you can get.
And so when are you eligible for the?
In our system,
No. For it with the Cobars.
when I'm 60.
Okay.
So 8 more years.
Okay. Very good. Yeah.
And I'm going to wait 8 more years.
No, I think that's awesome.
But that gives me plenty of time
Yeah.
to possibly get as close to black in jiu-jitsu as I can.
Was it 10 years from now? Oh, about how long you said?
About 8 years.
About 8 years from now? Maybe. Yeah, brown belt, I'm guessing.
But what I could do is I could also put my test forward because I'm taking better care of myself than I ever have in my entire life.
Yeah.
So my 62 could look okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be probably a 12th degree white belt in jiu-jitsu by then.
But so like if I'm still taking care of myself and I'm really like, the self-care is on point,
Yeah.
I could wait until I was eligible for black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and then have, black belt in Kali, black belt in Kyokushin, black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
Whatever Muay Thai is in 10 years, whatever that's called, I definitely get the fun headband. And then test.
Yeah.
And then what I'm hoping to contribute to you and then the trickle down to Alyssa and Ty is to set a standard that y'all will all break your necks trying to reach, which will make everybody that comes after them even better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think that is, and this is what I love about your setup here. And that's what I love about you as well, is that you don't stay stagnant. Like the Legends name. I mean, and I have been blessed to be surrounded by the Gregs and Phillips and Valdez's and stuff to where they continue to grow and don't remain stagnant at all. So you guys continue. That's why I love that. But yes, I like it.
That was one of the reasons, that same mindset that I started doing the Marine Corps PFT. It wasn't required for advanced black belts at first. It was just required for your first year. And I was like, well, if I'm making them do it, I need to do it too. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so I started doing it, and then I hated running. I was horrible at it. Yeah. And then I was just like, well, I hate sucking at stuff. And so I need to get better. And so then I started it.
And that's what I'm hoping will happen in jiu-jitsu. Because I make no bones about this. I don't love jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I think I don't love it because I'm not any good at it.
Right.
Yep. And the better I get at it, the less I don't love it yet.
Yeah.
But I do hate it less.
Dude, I had a frustrating day on the match yesterday. Yeah, see, because just the aches and pains of the good old military, the hips, and so I couldn't just do some stuff. I was just kind of, I left there kind of down, just a little frustrated. Like, man, I hate it. My opponent, like, man, this guy's been on the mats, less than me. He's just tearing me up. Then I had to remind myself, it's okay. My jiu-jitsu is not your jiu-jitsu.
You're running your own race.
And I had to remind myself that day. I mean, I was messaging with Greg too, so it was good. But anyways, look, I want to circle back to this because my wife had postpartum after, so we had our daughter Journey, and then we had a miscarriage before Talon, which really screwed me up, and then we had Talon, and after Talon was born, she had some pretty heavy postpartum. We were surrounded by a loving church family. They helped us, and a good community there. But I wasn't in martial arts yet, so I didn't have the martial arts. Mm-hmm. So for you, when you had postpartum, like what? I mean, other than the martial arts, I mean, you had your family. Like how did you pick yourself up, and then what role did your husband help with that as well?
Well, so I had 3 miscarriages before we had the twins. And so I was kind of on the other. I also unfortunately experienced that. And then the twins, and then no doubt. So what is that? 5 pregnancies, 3 kids, 2 with. So it's always fun to kind of explain that for doctors, because you're like, wait, how does this happen?
Right. Yeah.
But so what was really hard that coming out with the twins was, my husband, like I said, Jeremy J is what I call him. He is in the military, and we both went down to College Station. So I could do my PhD and he could get his undergrad. He changed units and everything. And we were supposed to both graduate in May 2019. And then he was deployed again. So he actually deployed the day after my second miscarriage, which was, oh my gosh, horrible. So like, I'm in the hospital, we were at the breakfast, the going away breakfast. And then I was like, something's wrong. I went in the hospital. They're like, sorry. And then he comes in and was like, I still have to leave tomorrow. And I was like, well, that's great. So a friend of mine, Ellie, she and I were both in the program together as a year ahead of her at A&M, and we started just working out. And so I started doing boxing classes. She got me to do spin classes. And so just really trying to get me to go to the gym and go out with her and go do dinners and hang out and just let's just do stuff together. Let's have our intellectual thought conversations, but also go out and work out together. And it was really, really, really nice. So he comes back. This has delayed his graduation 2 semesters. So I graduate May 20, had the kids January 19, finished my dissertation February 19, graduated May 19, started my job in Dallas-Fort Worth in August, but he had another year. And so I was solo parenting other than weekends. My mom would come once or twice a week, and Sarah, my youngest sister, would come once a week so I could go teach my classes. But I was by myself at night and everything, and it was really, really bad. When the twins were 10 months old, so Fred Cofferell got married, and it was like that day I dropped Jay off at the airport to go do an internship in India for 10 weeks. Because he's engineering, and you do these internships at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. And it's such a once in a lifetime experience. Like, what am I going to be like? No, don't do this thing that you really need for you. And so during that time frame, I was like, I'm really struggling. So I reached out to my friend Ellie, and she's originally from Bulgaria, and she's like, come stay with me for a week. And I was like, I've got infant twins. What am I? They're 4 months old. But you know what? Yeah, Mom, can you watch them for a couple days? And mother-in-law, can you watch them for a couple days? And I straight up left the country for a week. Infant twins.
Yeah,
And
no, that's
I didn't realize how much I needed to get pulled out of like the repetition and just like the darkness that just felt like it was closing in. And I came back, I checked a bag because I was pumping that whole time.
Yeah.
It was 60 pounds worth of 60 pounds. They had cleared out their freezer. Like my friend, her grandparents, they were like moving some colors. Because I was like, here's more.
I'm sorry.
And then when I went to check the bag, they were like, this is an overweight bag. I'm like, I don't care. I'll pay for it. They're like, what is in this bag? It's a cooler. And I was like, breast milk. And they're just like, how long were you gone? I was like, 6 days.
Yeah,
And they were like,
I have twins. By the way, I have twins.
yeah, it ended up being kind of a good thing because I was able to produce enough for them. But when I had the baby, I think my body thought it was still twins. So I was able to donate like a couple thousand ounces.
That's
for
awesome. That is
milk.
really awesome. That's amazing. So tell me about this week though in Bulgaria though.
Yes. And it was great. Like we went and we just were outside. We went on long walks and we went shopping and we went like just, like normal things to do. And I was still getting up every 3 hours to pump. I was still doing the things that I needed to do, but I was able to have some space and some sleep. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's through friends and through family. And I had that support and I just, needed to get out and like catch my breath in a moment. And
that's a good friend too, by the way. Tell me was it Ellie you said?
Ellie,
that's a good friend. You can just go, hey, check on you. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Come on. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she works in Hong Kong now, so we don't really see each other too much, but we try to see each other once a year.
Okay.
Cool. So we saw each other in Australia earlier this year and then like in Toronto last year at our conferences. And so like we just always, but having that kind of connection with people and then the physical activity. And so like that was in the triathlon really, because it gave me some really set goals, like learn how to ride a bike, swim, like that kind of thing. So my coach, Caroline, was also instrumental, really pulling me out. And my husband was doing his best and but he had to finish his degree. I mean, I think he thought about quitting, but then like we had invested so much time. It's all paid for. Just finish it out. And then COVID hitting was actually a really big blessing for us.
Okay.
Because it brought him home. Like, because A&M closed, everything was online. So he wasn't going to graduate till May 2020. He came back 2 months early. He came home for spring break, didn't go back. Finished his semester out there. So that cut us
the silver lining of
the silver lining of COVID. There's a lot of not good, but that was really, really helpful for us in our relationship and trying to be new parents.
There were some stuff where I'll be on full transparency here. Mm-hmm. Parenthood was tough, especially I will say probably after Talon, right? Because I didn't really have my purpose. I met my wife right after the military, right? I got out August of 2005, August 1, met my wife just about 3 or 4 weeks later, right after promising I would never get married again. And then, so my purpose, I always joke that she pretty much gave me a purpose. She saved my mindset and life afterwards. But after the kids were born, I didn't have martial arts to go to, right? I mean, we were still new. Journey was born in 2006, and I had just got here. My wife was pregnant when we moved here, so we didn't have the community and stuff. So I didn't really have anything. There were times where I just want to end this marriage. Like there were times where I was like, you know what? I've done it once before. One failed marriage was 2, right? And so it took a lot of, like I said, just surrounding myself with some good church family. That really helped me. But all that to say is, it sounded like obviously helped you guys. And then your youngest was born. So did you know before the baby was born that there was going to be some, I guess, special needs with your baby?
So it was, it's actually one of the twins.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, we ended up, we've actually been in some cool genetic studies because of it. It's just a random rare genetic mutation that my husband and I are both carriers of that we didn't know. And it actually wasn't clinically proven until earlier this year. Okay. So we've been kind of sitting in this variant of unknown significance realm for the last 5 years. And then earlier this year, after our visit to the NIH in December last year, they were like, actually, we now have enough cases to say that it's a variation on the FOXA3 gene. Nothing you could have done. Great. And then so we had a sense that was happening. And basically with COVID too, I was thinking, well, if we're going to have more kids, I wasn't really sure, partly because of the postpartum, partly because of the risk of multiples again, partly because of my career. And it was like, well, we're COVID though. I'm teaching online. I'm high risk pregnancy because I have type 1. That's lots of appointments. We had a traumatic birth with the first one. So with the twins, and like one of them was life flighted out to another airport or not, via helicopter to another hospital a couple hours away. And so it's like, I don't know if we're going to, but you know what? Let's just see what God has in store and go from there. So.
And Noadon's just great.
And Noadon is like the most chill kid. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
He's great. He's chill. He's focused. He's so sweet. So, I mean, they're all sweet.
Yeah, that's right.
They're all
Right.
But it was really,
But it's just fascinating that Noadon is the one who's like, well, should we? If this makes sense, you know what I mean? And after seeing him now, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, if they were all like this, we probably would have had 10.
Right. Well, but then he was an almost like, he was, you were like, the ups and downs of whether to do, and then you see him and you're like, that's all up.
Yes.
There's no downside to that.
Yes.
So guys, I want you to understand what she just said, because I'm going to Reader's Digest her process through like that dark time and that painful time.
Yeah.
So this is how the great and powerful wizard Grace Brannon got through a tough time. Not alone,
Correct.
and by taking the time to take care of herself.
Self-care. Yes.
And the thing is that is so simple,
Sure.
but so not done.
Right.
People, we live in a bootstrap pulling up world.
Yes.
Where it's selfish to do things that you need to do to be at your best.
Right.
But like Hanshi says all the time, like this world needs us at our best. It's not selfish to be the best version of myself, because the best version of myself can do more good for other people.
Right.
If I'm barely hanging on, what good am I to you?
Right.
Or you? I'm like, I can barely keep my head above water.
Right.
So it's like, I heard somebody, and they were throwing rich people under the bus. It was Nikki. And I don't disagree with what she was saying.
Yeah.
She was saying basically that the 1% are the drag on humanity, not the people on welfare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this lady, she goes, my uncle is a multimillionaire and he helps so many people. And she's like, that's not the 1%.
Yeah.
Like Jamie Cashin is not the 1%. You know what I mean? Like he's going to Africa and building schools and feeding homeless people.
Yeah.
Because he has the means to do that.
Right.
She's like, I'm not talking about anybody you know or will ever know.
Right.
And that concept is that if I have the financial means, I can help more people. But spiritually and emotionally and mentally and physically, if I'm at my best, I'm of maximum service to God and my fellow man.
Right. But let me, as we wind this down, by the way,
It has been great, right?
You are, but as we're winding down, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a fascinating story, and anyone you mentor should be lucky to have you as a mentor.
It's been my last 3 have all been moms.
Yeah.
And so that's been really
I think that's awesome because your story. But I also, as much as you said about Grace, go self-care and stuff. I want to talk about the flip side real quick to you guys. I want to talk about Ellie. I want to talk about being a friend.
Right.
There is something, and I try to preach about being a good friend, right? I preach that, listen, Jesus was the ultimate example to me about loving your neighbor as you love yourself. your neighbors, guess what? Probably that guy's a jerk next door. He's a giant douche or whatever. But to be a friend doesn't mean that I have to be a friend with the entire world, right? Just be friendly, be kind. Being a true friend is that brother who will lay down their life for you, right? I will lay down my life for Chance Wilson. And there's a few others I will lay my life down for, right? And Ellie sounds like the friend that will 100% lay her life down for you. And to be a good friend, she knew something was up. She was in tune with you. And she said, hey, come on, girl, come spend a week. And when she contacts you, listen, it doesn't take a lot to be a good friend. This world is so full of a lot of garbage and trash anyway. Pick up the phone, text your buddy, send them that reel on the socials. Just do whatever. Like, I reach out to Chance probably a couple times a week. Even after this, I'm like, hey, man, you good? He checks on me. I check on him. I mean, I know stuff about Chance. Chance knows stuff about me. I promise you, I'm never going to share my stuff with you. Right. But I will share with Chance, right? And there's something to be said about that. So as much as you did a lot of good work, your friend Ellie, if you're watching this, great job being a great friend. So that's really all I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about both of them. So,
and it's important that there are times that I'll hear people talk about stuff, and I'll hear people's stories, and I'll walk away from that going, I need to be better about that. Man, I need to be better about that. But there is something that I think I'm not bad at. And it is, and could I be better? Sure, I'm sure I could, right? But I think I'm not terrible at letting you know how much you mean to me and how much you mean to this organization. And how much better my life and the lives of everybody here, how much better our lives are because of your existence, just your existence. And it's not this special cocktail of things you do. It's just who you are, which might be why Ellie is who she is because you're also that person. Yes. Before we get off the podcast, I want to tell you that I got an interesting text from a mother that you know.
okay.
Her 3 girls are a part of our school now. And she said, I cannot tell you how great it is to have them come home and talk about all of the girls and the strong woman leadership that they have in your school. They cannot stop talking about how friendly and welcoming and how inspiring it is to see women, that they're like, if I could only be like her, Because the thing is that if I've got a 15-year-old girl in here, she doesn't want to be like me.
Right.
Like, she doesn't want to be like, I'm an old, crusty, white, bearded, you know what I mean? So I can't be the same inspiration that you can.
Right.
No more than you could be the inspiration for a 12-year-old boy.
Right.
So thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for adopting me.
Yeah. Well, listen, I feel as though I'm better just by because Grace, you are pretty amazing. And I'm glad to have you on the podcast. And apparently I have to get more women on the podcast.
Well, we need to make her a repeat. We've got some repeat people, so we got to have her back on.
Who's that?
We got to have her back on.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I didn't even get to talk about Krav.
That's right. There's chapters we haven't even dug into.
There's a place like I want to get Ian back on. Ian back on. Yeah, this is amazing. Guys, listen. The holiday season is here. We talked some mental health stuff. Just be a good friend. Really, just that person. Just send them a text. Good guy, send them a text. We talked a lot about community. Find yourself a solid community. I always preach martial arts, so get on the martial arts mats. Veterans, get on the martial arts mats as well. And listen, like, subscribe, follow us. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys.